The Dusty Spoon was chaos on two legs that evening. A poker game had gone bad, a bottle had gone flying, and someone's hat was on fire. Again. Martha Larkins slammed her rag on the counter and bellowed, "If one more fool spills whiskey on my floor, I'll serve your hide with biscuits." Before we start, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and before we dive in, tell us in the comments where you are watching this video from. We love hearing from you, and always read every message. The men laughed nervously, until one actually did knock over a glass. Martha's glare could have dried up a river. She grabbed a broom like a weapon. Then the saloon doors creaked, and in stepped Trouble wrapped in dust and confidence. Wade Mercer. Barely 25, lean as rope, with a smile that said he'd been warned about women like her and ignored it anyway. "Ma'am," he said, tipping his hat. "Looks like you're running a fine little circus." "Then you're the newest clown," Martha snapped. The crowd hooted. Wade grinned wider. "Ain't my fault your customers don't know their liquor from lamp oil." She marched toward him, face red with fury. "And who are you to judge, boy?" He leaned close, voice low. "Someone who knows how to stop a fight before you break that broom." Before she could spit back, he caught a swinging chair mid-air, dropped it, and the room fell silent. Martha blinked, impressed, annoyed, dangerously curious. "Happy now?" he asked, brushing dust off his sleeve. "Not till you pay for the chair you just manhandled." He smirked. "Then I guess I'll be staying a while." Laughter rippled through the saloon. Martha turned away, muttering, "Lord help me, the stray thinks he's charming." But her hand trembled just slightly as she picked up the broom. By sunrise, Redstone Crossing already had a brand new legend. The Widow and the Wild One. Martha Larkins hated it. At Nora Bell's bakery, flour flew and gossip rose hotter than the ovens. Delilah Mae Turner swirled her coffee and announced, "I heard the outlaw saved Martha's life. Caught a chair mid-air." "Must have been fate," Lila Finch gasped, eyes wide as butter plates. "Saved her? Or started it? My pa said he winked at her while she was yelling." Nora Bell chuckled. "Maybe he did both. Can't say the woman's had excitement in 10 years. Across town, Sheriff Amos tipped his hat to Tobias Finch. "That Mercer boy's a looker. Half the town's girls are ready to faint." Tobias grinned. "And the other half's prayin' he don't notice." Meanwhile, inside the Dusty Spoon, Martha was scrubbing the same table for the 5th time, muttering under her breath. The door creaked, and there he was again. Wade Mercer, smiling like he owned the place. "Morning, ma'am," he said. "Came to pay for that chair." She froze. "You still here? Didn't seem right to run off after all the fun we had." "Fun?" she scoffed. "You call bar fights and broken furniture fun?" He leaned against the counter, eyes steady. "Depends who you're fighting next to." Her heart skipped once, just once, before she straightened her apron. "You'd best finish that sentence before I use this broom again." He laughed, low and easy. "Guess I'll see you at supper then." She watched him leave, cheeks burning, and swore the room felt emptier the moment he was gone. By mid-morning the hammering started, sharp, steady, and entirely unwelcome. Martha stepped outside and stopped dead. There was Wade Mercer, crouched on her porch, sleeves rolled, fixing a loose board like he'd been hired to do it. "What in heaven's name do you think you're doing?" she demanded. He didn't look up. "Seems your porch was gonna swallow the next fool who walked over it. Thought I'd save you the lawsuit." She crossed her arms. "Oh, that's rich. The outlaw's worried about safety now?" He grinned without turning around. "Ma'am, I'm retired from my wicked ways. Mostly." "Mostly?" she shot back. "So what are you these days? A carpenter with a death wish?" That earned her a laugh, deep and genuine. "Just paying for the chair like I promised." Martha stepped closer, eyeing the neat nails and the confident swing of his hammer. "You don't act like a man running from anything," she said softly. "So what keeps you here?" He paused, eyes flicking up at her. Too calm, too knowing. "Maybe I found something worth staying for." The air went still. For one dizzy moment, she forgot to breathe. Then her pride caught up. You keep talking like that and I'll charge rent. He smirked. Fair enough. I'll pay in sweat and charm. Charm's overvalued in this town. Not by everyone. His gaze lingered. She turned away before her face betrayed her. Finish that porch and move along, Mercer. He tipped his hat. Can't promise that, ma'am. Martha went back inside, heart pounding, muttering to herself. But the hammering outside had a rhythm she couldn't quite tune out. And from the shadows across the street, Delilah May watched, smiling like a cat who'd just seen a secret worth spreading. By sunset, Redstone Crossing was humming like a hive that had tasted scandal. Every porch, every store, every pew in the little church had the same conversation. Martha Larkins and her young outlaw. At the barber shop, Tobias Finch leaned on the doorframe, shaking his head. Heard Wade Mercer's been spendin' afternoons fixin' more than wood. Old Mr. Grady squinted. You sayin' he's courtin' the saloon widow? Courtin'? Tobias snorted. More like rehearsin' his next crime. At Nora Bell's bakery, flour flew and tongues wagged. Delilah May stirred sugar into her coffee, pretending innocence. I just think it's strange, is all. He's half her age, full of charm, and somehow glued to her porch. Hetty Griggs, biting into a biscuit, nodded. That boy's trouble. Mark my words, he's after her purse, or her pride. Lila Finch sighed dreamily. I'd let him after both if he smiled my way. The women laughed, but there was acid in it. Meanwhile, Martha felt the sting of whispers even through closed doors. When she stepped out to sweep her porch that evening, 2 passers-by hushed their conversation mid-sentence. She could feel the laughter following her back like dust. Inside, Wade worked silently, fixing the final board. He glanced up at her, sensing the weight on her shoulders. Something wrong? He asked. She tried to sound steady. Just folks talking. They always do. About us? About me, she snapped, too fast, too sharp. He leaned his hammer against the wall, eyes steady but unreadable. Well, if they're gonna talk, maybe we ought to give 'em something worth talking about. She froze, breath catching, heart tripping over itself. Outside, the wind carried a whisper straight down Main Street. He said what? And by morning, the whole town would know every word he hadn't even said yet. Saturday night hit Redstone Crossing like thunder in dry air. The dusty spoon pulsed with fiddle strings, laughter, and spilled whiskey. Every table was full, every glance pointed toward one corner, where Wade Mercer leaned against the bar, calm and handsome as sin, while Martha Larkins tried to look like she didn't notice him. Delilah May, dressed in scarlet satin, was on stage, her voice smooth as honey and twice as dangerous. She caught Martha's eye, smirked, and launched into a teasing tune. Old hearts and young fire never mix well, they say. The crowd chuckled. Martha froze, blood heating under her skin. Wade grinned, stepped forward, and extended a hand. Dance with me. Don't be ridiculous, she hissed. I'm workin'. You're hidin', he countered softly. Her glare could have killed a cactus, but before she could stop herself, her hand was already in his. The room erupted. Cheers, laughter, a few gasps. Wade pulled her close, his palm warm against hers, the music softening. For a fleeting moment, the world shrank to the sound of his heartbeat and the scent of his shirt. Dust, leather, and danger. Then came the whispers. She's old enough to be his mother. He must want her money. Or her saloon. The laughter stung like gunfire. Martha stiffened, pride flaring. She tore her hand away. That's enough, Mr. Mercer. The music faltered. Wade stepped back, confusion flashing across his face. Delilah smiled sweetly into her song, watching it all unravel. Martha turned, voice tight. You wanted to give them something to talk about. Well, you did. Wade's jaw clenched, eyes dark. Guess I did. And as he walked out into the cold desert night, every gaze followed him, except hers, which stayed fixed on the door he'd left through. By Sunday morning, Redstone Crossing was drunk on gossip. The story of Martha's moonlit dance had grown legs, teeth, and a tail. By breakfast, half the town swore Wade had kissed her hand. By noon, someone claimed they'd been secretly meeting for weeks. Inside the Dusty Spoon, Martha sat stiff at the counter, stirring cold coffee while her friends circled like vultures disguised as companions. Norabelle leaned forward, eyes kind. "You danced, Marth. You didn't rob a bank. Folks'll talk a few days, then move on." "Not about this," Martha muttered. "They're laughing. I can feel it." Hetty Griggs crossed her arms, lips thin. "You should feel it. That boy's using you to clean up his name. A drifter like him don't hang around a woman your age unless there's something in it for him." Martha bristled. "You think I can't tell a schemer when I see one?" Delilah May, polishing her nails, smiled too sweetly. "Sometimes it's hard to tell when a man looks at you like that. Makes you forget where you stand." Hetty nodded. "You're a fine woman, Marth, but you're lonely. And men like him smell that like wolves smell blood." Norabelle slammed her cup down. "Enough, both of you. Not every man's a wolf, and not every heart past 40's dead." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Martha looked between them, torn clean in half. Between Nora's hope and Hetty's warning, between Delilah's sly smile and her own trembling doubt. Finally she stood, voice flat. "You're all right. Every last one of you. I've been foolish." Delilah's eyes gleamed, satisfied. "Best to end it now, sugar, before he ends it for you." Outside, the sun dipped low, and in the quiet between fiddle notes and rumor, something inside Martha Larkins began to harden. Pride replacing the pulse of something dangerously close to love. The morning after the dance, Wade Mercer sat outside the livery, polishing his boots and pretending not to notice the stares. The whole town was whispering his name, mostly attached to Martha's. Some looked amused, others envious, a few outright hostile. That's when she appeared. Clara Wren, the seamstress's daughter. 22, curls too perfect, smile too knowing. She'd heard the gossip, the song, every exaggerated detail about the outlaw who dared to dance with the saloon widow. Now she wanted a closer look. "Mr. Mercer?" she asked, voice sweet as pie left too long in the sun. "Heard you've a fondness for older women. Thought I'd test the rumor's accuracy." Wade chuckled low, trying to be polite. "Ma'am, I'm fond of peace and quiet these days." "Ain't had much of either since that dance," she pouted. "You don't strike me as the quiet type." "I wasn't, once. Got older." "You're 25. Like I said, older." Her laugh rang like bells. But in the shadow of the general store, Lila Finch saw it all. Saw her laugh, saw him grin, and saw exactly what she wanted. A story to tell. By sunset, Lila was whispering to Delilah May that Wade Mercer had been carrying on with the seamstress's girl since before the dance. Delilah, half jealous and half delighted, spread it faster than wildfire. "Poor Martha," she sighed to Hetty, loud enough for the bakery to hear. "Imagine, thinking a man like that would stay loyal." By the time the tale reached the saloon, Wade had apparently kissed 3 women and promised each the same thing. A lie none of them ever heard him tell. When Martha stormed onto her porch that evening, her face was pale with anger and humiliation. Wade looked up from repairing the last porch rail and froze. "You can stop pretending," she said coldly. "Seems you've got plenty of admirers who don't need woodwork to keep you busy." "Martha." "Don't!" Her voice cracked like thunder. "Whatever game you're playing, it ends now." She slammed the door so hard the dust jumped off the floorboards, and behind it, her heart broke soundlessly. And for the first time since he came to Redstone Crossing, Wade Mercer didn't have a single word to say. The next morning, Redstone Crossing woke to a strange silence. No hammering, no whistling from the porch, no hint of Wade Mercer's easy grin. Only the wind, whispering through the alleyways like it carried something gone. Norabelle was the first to notice. She marched to the livery and found his horse missing. "Packed up and rode out before dawn," the stable boy said. "Didn't say where." By mid-morning, everyone knew. Hetty Griggs sniffed over her teacup. Told you so. Outlaws don't stay, they slink. Delilah May leaned closer, voice dripping honey. Poor Martha. Guess he found someone less complicated. Lila Finch giggled. Or younger. In the dusty spoon, Martha stood behind the bar, polishing the same glass till it gleamed like regret. Her friends' voices echoed in her head. Every warning, every whisper. But instead of relief, all she felt was something heavy pressing in her chest. Nora Bell came in quietly, removing her apron. He's gone, she said gently. Martha didn't look up. Good riddance. Don't lie to me, Martha Larkins. The older woman's hand froze. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her. He lied first. Nora sighed. Did he, though? You heard it. You didn't ask it. That stung worse than the gossip. As the sun sank, Martha wandered out to the porch he'd built. The boards were smooth, strong, a little uneven in places, imperfect, like him. She ran a hand along the railing, her fingers trembling. You fool, she whispered, though it wasn't clear which one she meant. In the distance, a cloud of dust trailed beyond the hills. Maybe a rider, maybe just the wind. She stood there long after the dust settled, watching the road until night took it from sight. Inside, the saloon lights glowed warm and empty, and Martha poured herself a glass of whiskey, her first in years, but it didn't burn half as much as the thought that maybe, just maybe, she'd been wrong about him. Delilah May Turner had a rule: never waste good gossip, unless you could turn it into power. Now that Wade Mercer was gone, and Martha Larkins looked like a ghost of herself, Delilah decided it was time to nudge things along. She perched at the piano in the dusty spoon one quiet evening, her crimson dress glowing under the oil lamps. Martha, sugar, she drawled, playing a lazy tune. You ever think maybe that boy didn't do what they said? Martha glanced up from wiping glasses. You started half of what they said. Delilah laughed softly. Oh, I just pass along the melody. It's folks like Lila Finch who make up the lyrics. Martha's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe you had nothing to do with it? Delilah's smile faltered, just slightly. I might have exaggerated a few things, but only 'cause you look so sure of him, and that ain't always safe. Safe? Martha's voice hardened. I was happy for the first time in years. Didn't need safe. For a moment, Delilah's eyes softened. Guilt, faint but real. I didn't mean to ruin it. Word got out faster than I could reel it back. Nora Bell, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped in. Then fix it. You're good with words. Use 'em for something decent for once. Delilah hesitated, biting her lip. He's still in the next town over, Copper Ridge. I heard from a peddler he's been working there, quiet-like. Martha's rag stilled in her hand. You heard that? Delilah nodded. Said he keeps asking about the woman who runs the dusty spoon. For the first time in weeks, Martha's heart gave a painful, hopeful thump. Delilah looked away. Maybe telling you that's the only decent thing I'll do this year. Martha exhaled slowly, her pride and longing waging war inside her. Then she said half to herself, if he's asking, maybe he deserves an answer. Delilah smiled faintly, almost sad. Then saddle up, sugar. Before Copper Ridge gets wind he's free again. The road to Copper Ridge was long, dusty, and full of things Martha Larkins hadn't felt in years. Mostly nerves. The sun beat down, the wagon creaked, and every turn made her wonder whether she was the biggest fool in the territory. When she finally rolled into town, Copper Ridge was bustling. Miners, merchants, and the smell of hot iron from the blacksmith. Her hands gripped the reins tighter when she spotted him. Wade Mercer. He stood outside the feed store, shirt sleeves rolled, laughing with a pair of children who were chasing a one-eyed dog. The sight hit her straight in the chest. Simple, honest, and infuriatingly human. She climbed down, brushed the dust off her skirt, and marched right up to him. You fix porches, feed stores, and hearts in this town too? He turned, startled, then smiled, slow and careful. Didn't expect to see you here, ma'am. Don't ma'am me, she shot back. I came for the truth. He nodded, quiet. Then asked, Did you flirt with that girl, Clara Wren? His jaw tightened. She flirted with me. I told her to find someone her age. Next thing I knew, folks said I'd promised her marriage. I figured you believed it. Martha's lips trembled. I did. That's a shame, he said softly. I never lied to you. The silence between them stretched, taut as wire. Around them, life went on. A horse snorted, a boy laughed, the wind stirred dust, and still neither moved. Finally, Wade spoke, voice low. I didn't leave because I was ashamed. I left because every look in that town said you ought to be. Her throat ached. You shouldn't care what people think. He smiled sadly. You did. She looked away, tears threatening. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe we both were. They stood there, halfway between pride and forgiveness, between what was said and what was never meant to be. Then he tipped his hat. I'm working here another week. After that, who knows? And he walked away, leaving her standing in the street, heart pounding, realizing that sometimes the hardest part of love isn't losing it. It's finding it again and not knowing what to do next. By nightfall, Copper Ridge was restless. Clouds rolled in heavy and black, the kind of sky that warned of something bigger than rain. Martha sat alone in her wagon outside the inn, watching the storm gather. Every rumble of thunder seemed to echo the words she hadn't said. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Come back. But pride was a stubborn companion, even lonelier than she was. Across town, Wade finished stacking hay behind the stables when the first drops began to fall. Then, he heard boots in the mud. Her boots. Martha, he said, turning, rain already soaking through his shirt. You'll catch your death out here. Too late for that, she snapped, voice shaking more than she wanted. I came to finish what we started. He raised a brow. The argument or the dance? She hesitated, then laughed, a short, breathless sound swallowed by thunder. Maybe both. Lightning flashed, painting her face pale and fierce. You didn't deserve how I treated you, she said. I let their words get in my head. All those women whispering like they knew my heart better than I did. He stepped closer, slow, cautious. You think they still whisper? They probably will, she said, meeting his gaze. But I don't care anymore. For a long, trembling moment, they stood inches apart. Rain dripping off the brim of his hat, her dress clinging to her shoulders. You sure about that? He asked quietly. I'm sure I'd rather be foolish for the truth than safe in a lie. His eyes softened, a smile breaking through the storm. Well, he murmured, you're about to get your wish. Then he pulled her close, not rough or desperate, just steady and certain. The kind of kiss that had been waiting in the spaces between arguments and almost confessions. Thunder rolled like applause. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, So now what? He grinned. Now we give Redstone Crossing something worth gossiping about for real. She laughed, leaning her forehead against his chest, and for the first time, the storm outside sounded like music. The next morning, Redstone Crossing woke to the kind of gossip that made the air hum. A wagon was seen rolling down the ridge road, two silhouettes sitting side by side, the widow and the outlaw, returning together. Martha Larkins didn't hide this time. She sat tall beside Wade Mercer, her hair undone by the wind, her heart steady for the first time in years. The road that had once led him away now carried them home. When they reached town, every porch seemed to stop breathing. Delilah May stood frozen in her doorway, a dish towel limp in her hand. Nora Bell smiled quietly from behind her bakery window. Even Sheriff Amos tipped his hat, though his eyes said, well, I'll be damned. Martha climbed down, straightened her coat, and looked the whole town square in the eye. If anyone's got something to say, she called, voice clear and strong, say it now. Otherwise, I've got a saloon to run, and a man to feed. A few gasps, then silence, and then a slow clap. From Nora Bell first, then others, until laughter rippled through the street like sunlight breaking through clouds. Wade leaned close, whispering, "You sure you want to keep me around? Seems I stir up trouble wherever I go." She smiled, that rare, quiet smile that reached her eyes. "You just make the world noisy again. I'd forgotten how to like that." He chuckled. "Then I guess I'll have to stay noisy." That evening, the Dusty Spoon glowed brighter than it had in years. Music filled the air, and for once, nobody whispered. Martha poured whiskey with laughter in her voice. Wade tuned the old piano, and Delilah May, watching from the stage, felt something warm and unfamiliar stir. Maybe guilt. Maybe joy. As the night wore on, Martha stepped outside, where the porch he built still creaked softly under her feet. Wade followed, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You ever think we'd end up here?" he asked. She leaned back against him, eyes on the starlit desert. "Not in 1,000 years." "Worth the wait?" She turned, resting her hands against his chest. "Every lonely minute." The wind carried the sound of laughter from inside, the kind that had been missing from her life far too long. For the first time in decades, Martha Larkins didn't feel like an old woman at all. She felt alive, loved, and exactly where she was meant to be. And under the vast Wild West sky, where the stars looked close enough to touch, the outlaw and the widow finally stopped running. From the town, from gossip, and from their own hearts. Thanks for riding with us, friends. If you want more Western love stories, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.